Ocarina of Time is perhaps one of the most influential video games in existence. I love this game so much to the point that it's a borderline obsession. Despite what people claim, the game is not perfect, and there are aspects of the game that are annoying and downright unfair. Today, I'll be going through some of the worst aspects of Ocarina of Time. There are two archery games in Ocarina of Time, one of which is a simple shoot the rupees when they appear game. It isn't all too hard, and you play it as a child with the slingshot and then later as an adult with the bow. Later in the game, after obtaining the Ruto membership card, you gain access to the Horseback archery game. This one is significantly more difficult because you have to hit the targets while moving on opponent. Not only that, you also have to get a certain amount of points with a limited amount of arrows, so you can't just spray and pray. It's even more challenging on the N64 joystick, which is notorious for being hard to use since over time it wears itself down. It's a bit easier to do on the GameCube controller like I usually do, or on the 3DS with gyro controls. On top of it being challenging, you actually need to complete it twice. Once to get a piece of heart, and another time to get the largest quiver, which holds 50 arrows. In the Lost Woods, if you head to the right and down a ladder, you'll find two Skull Kids. If you approach them and pull out the ocarina, they'll ask you to play a song with them. It's essentially a game of Simon Says, but it gets harder as it goes on, and you need to memorize all the notes for a pretty long time. I'm not that great at this, and I usually mess it up to the point that I actually take pictures each time to get it over with. I especially struggled with this on the 3DS version, which makes use of the L and R buttons for the ocarina. Fishing is arguably the most difficult and frustrating minigame in Ocarina of Time. I actually think it's the worst part of the game in my opinion. The idea is that you need to catch the biggest fish you can. If it's bigger than a certain threshold, you'll get a reward. You get a heart piece if you complete it as a child, and the golden scale if you complete it as an adult, which you use to obtain a heart piece later on, meaning it's required that you do it twice for 100% completion. The issue here is that it's almost completely RNG whether or not the fish actually bites. Then you need to actually reel it in, which can be extremely difficult as well. There are times that it looks promising and the fish just lets go. When this happens, you need to leave the fishing pond, re-enter, and pay 20 rupees to play again. Keep in mind that you can't disturb the fish either, or they'll get scared away and the big one will be lost somewhere else in the lake. There are ways to make it easier. For example, the biggest fish always spawns in the same location, so it's at least easy to find. However, like I mentioned before, it's pretty difficult to actually get the fish to bite and reel it in. I've tried countless tricks to get it to work, and I've even seen other people do it super quick without any trouble. Maybe it's just a skill issue. It just sucks that you need to go through this game twice to get all the rewards. However, I must say, it seems like it's much easier on the N64 version. I was able to catch both fish within 15 minutes compared to the 3DS version, which took me over an hour for each fish. Horseback riding is one of the mechanics that Ocarina of Time is known for. It's shown in the title screen and is an important part of how you traverse Hyrule as an adult. The actual mechanical horseback riding isn't annoying, it's actually a brilliant way to get around Hyrule, but the jumping mechanics, that is what's annoying. There are several points in the game where you need an opponent to jump over a fence. However, you need to be absolutely precise, or else opponent will stop in her tracks. They even mentioned this in-game. I'm assuming it was a technical limitation that they couldn't overcome because of the mention in-game. It's super annoying while trying to complete the trading quest and you need to get out of Lake Hylia while on a time limit. It's the absolute worst when trying to complete the horse race for Malin and Lon Lon Ranch. You need to make it around the track in under 50 seconds. However, there are a few fences in the way. If you miss even one of them, the entire game is ruined and you need to start over. I can't even begin to express how annoying this can be. And if you thought it was only in this game, it's not. The same thing is in Majora's Mask. The Iron Boots is the item you receive in the Ice Cavern. They're used to explore underwater regions of the game as well as some later parts of the game like the Shadow Temple. However, it's used the most in the Water Temple. The issue isn't the item itself, instead it's the way you equip them. You need to swap between the Iron Boots and normal boots every single time you want to submerge or surface. But the Iron Boots aren't a normal C button item, they're equipable through the equipment screen only, which means you need to pause the game, change to the other boots, and then unpause the game. It becomes incredibly tedious after a while. Luckily, in the 3DS version, they actually made the Iron Boots a regular item instead, taking essentially all the tedium out of it. On top of that, if you play the Ship of Harkinian PC port of the game, there's actually an option that you can make the Iron Boots an equipable item on a C button. I don't think anything can prepare a new player for their first encounter with a Wallmaster. They can be found as early as the Forest Temple, and they stay all the way into the late game. They only spawn in certain areas, and you can tell because you'll see a shadow above you, getting larger and larger, with a faint howl getting louder and louder. If you don't move out of the way fast enough, it'll grab you and teleport you to the beginning of the dungeon. If you dodge it, it'll land on the ground and you can actually take it out. However, even I forget they exist sometimes, and they've definitely ruined my night. After leaving the forest, you're met by Kaepora Gaebora, an owl that acts as your guide in the early game. While he is helpful, he's also insanely annoying. If you've played the game as long as I have, you usually try to skip through all the text that he has to say. However, at the very end, he asks if you want him to repeat himself, and the default answer is yes. If you keep spamming the A button, he'll keep going on. Later on in Hyrule Castle, you meet him again and he does a similar thing, asking, "Did you get all that?" And the default option is no. It frustrates me every time I start a new playthrough. On top of that, it takes a while to get through all his dialogue. It would have been nice to get a skip button after beating the game at least once. After pulling the Master Sword and becoming an adult, you can talk to the Poe Collector in the building next to the drawbridge in Castletown. He tells you that he'll buy big Poes off of you for rupees, as well as adding points to your card. You can use Epona to track down and defeat the 10 Poes scattered around Hyrule Field. The idea of it isn't too bad, but the execution is. There are very specific areas that the Poes spawn, and it can be extremely difficult to shoot them with your bow before they disappear. There is one specifically by the entrance to Gerudo Valley that's infamous for being hard to defeat, as it disappears way too quickly. If you try this, definitely use an online map to find each of them, or you'll drive yourself crazy trying to find them blind. The worst part about it is that you don't even get anything amazing, just an empty bottle. Yes, I know they're useful, and you can use them to beat Ganondorf, but I would have preferred something else like a heart container, or maybe even a bow upgrade for getting all the Poes. On top of that, you need bottles to catch the Poes. Wouldn't it be useful to have that bottle before trying to catch all the Poes? Princess Ruto is a character you meet in Jabu Jabu's belly. What makes her so annoying is the fact that she makes Link carry her around throughout the dungeon. On top of that, sometimes she'll simply despawn and you'll need to go all the way back to the room you found her in to get her. Even at the very end of the dungeon, she scolds Link for leaving her behind. Luckily, she's not as annoying when you meet her again in the Water Temple. The main collectible in Ocarina of Time is gold Skulltula tokens. You get them by killing gold Skulltulas scattered around Hyrule. The purpose of doing this is to free the House of Skulltula from the curse they've been afflicted by. As you start to find more tokens, you're able to go back to the house and obtain some sort of reward for each person that gets freed of the curse. This happens every 10 tokens you get, until you reach 50. After you get 50 tokens, you need to wait until 100 tokens before getting the final reward. What do you think this reward would be? Just think about it. Now, lower your expectations because the final reward for finding all 100 tokens is a measly 200 rupees. It's not all horrible though, as it's an infinite supply you can keep redeeming, but by this time in the game you probably don't need rupees. It's just kind of disappointing that that's the reward you get for finding every single one of them. If you enter the graveyard at night, you'll run into Dampy, the gravekeeper. He offers to take you on his grave digging tour. He'll follow you around, and eventually, when on a patch of soil, you can ask him to dig for 10 rupees. The point of this is to get a piece of heart. Unfortunately, there's a 10% chance you'll actually get it, as the whole thing is RNG. After a maximum of 15 digs, you should finally get the heart container. Dampy is incredibly slow, so it just takes a while. If you want to learn more about the logic behind Dampy's RNG, there's a great video by ZFG that I'll link in the description. He does a great job explaining how it works and how it affects speedruns. On their own, Keese aren't too difficult to deal with. However, once you start encountering fire and ice Keese, it's much more annoying. Fire Keese are mainly a problem in Dodongo's Cavern if you have the Deco Shield on. They'll instantly destroy your shield and you'll need to buy a new one. Ice Keese are a whole different beast. You'll find them mainly in the Ice Cavern, and instead of damaging you, they instantly freeze you. It's an incredibly frustrating experience when you're just trying to get to the Ice Cavern, but the Ice Keese keep freezing you. Bongo Bongo is the boss of the Shadow Temple. He's not that hard, but sometimes he can be a real pain in the butt. You need to shoot his hands to stun them and then go in for an attack on his eye. Sometimes though, he can bounce you and make you lose control of the bow. I mentioned in one of my last videos that I crashed out dying to Bongo Bongo, and I got a comment from a buddy of mine saying that he'd like to see it. Well, here it is. my god, dude. I'm gonna fucking throw my controller, I swear to god.
Don't do it.
Dude, what the f am I supposed to do? Like, are you kidding me? My god, dude, this game is just not working with me today. What the f am I supposed to do? What the f am I supposed- Yep, I died. This game.